This is the Ink, Pray, Love podcast. We talk all things health, wealth, and community connection. Let's go. Welcome to this episode of the Ink, Pray, Love podcast. We have something very special for you today. The Sahara Rose, author, mystic, epic human, all the things. I've been looking forward to this a lot, and now it's finally here, and we get to share today with everyone about Dharma and demystifying the term. Again, thank you. Thank you for being here.
I'm excited that we're making this happen here in LA and to see where the conversation takes us.
Yeah, absolutely. I think first off, I'd like to share a little bit about your story. I'd like you to share a little bit about your story. And how did you get here? How did you become this amazing human you are today?
Yeah, growing up, I was a very spiritual child naturally. I grew up in Massachusetts, so I was very drawn to the Salem witch trials, and I would go there and research about them, and I would see spirits and beings, but my family thought I was, crazy. Yeah. My dad, both my parents immigrated from Iran, so it was like very focused on survival, grades, success, things like that. So I kind of like shut off those abilities. In fact, when I was in fourth grade, a group of kids threw me down a hill and I got a concussion because they said I was a witch and they wanted to burn me at the stake. So I literally had to relive that experience in this lifetime.
Fuck.
Yeah. So after getting that concussion, I was like, it's not safe for me to be magical. And so I just withdrew myself from that and just kind of went into Muggle land until, I started practicing yoga though at a young age, but to me, yoga was separate. I didn't see it as that. I was just very drawn to the more the body practice, but then I start reading books about it and, eventually practicing it a lot more and getting into plant-based eating, which eventually led me to raw veganism now later in college. And I was like, oh my God, being raw vegan is the best thing ever. I'm practicing Ashtanga yoga 3 hours a day, but my body starts shutting down. And first it was digestive issues, hormonal issues, and I did not get my period for first a few months, a year, then 2 years went by.
Wow.
So I went to many doctors and they said, your body has gone into perimenopause when I was 21 years old. Wow. So what that means is you're going to probably be handicapped at a young age. You'll never be able to have children, like all these serotonin issues. And they kept prescribing me tons of prescription medication from like antidepressants, hormone replacement therapy, like birth control, the list goes on. So intuitively, I knew there had to be a root cause to this. Like it doesn't just happen out of the blue, and I didn't want to be on these medications forever. So I just went on this journey of self-healing and studying different systems, which brought me to Ayurveda, the sister science of yoga, the world's oldest health system. And from, and I had already been going to India back and forth doing volunteer work. So I decided to sign up for Ayurveda school and healed my body, regained health, but more than just physical health, it was my mind changed. Like I used to be someone that had a lot of ideas, but I wasn't able to follow through. I was like, I want to do this, that, and that, but I wasn't taking action on those things. All of a sudden I became more disciplined, more able to like actually have the fire to pursue things. So I'm noticing the physical shifts are creating mental shifts, creating emotional shifts. I'm able to have more boundaries. I'm able to speak my truth. So I'm like, this is incredible. I need to share this wisdom with the world. And that's what gave me the idea to write a book on Ayurveda specifically to help millennial women like me discover this. So I'm like, I'm gonna write a book. And my parents are like, you are fucking out of your mind. Like, you need to get a job. Like, this is getting too far. Like, these hippies have gone into your head. Like, what do you think? Who do you think you are? You're not a doctor. Who are you to write this book? And it was really tough because part of me like knew I had gone through these health issues to help other people, but also maybe they were right. Like maybe I'm going to spend my time trying to write this book and I never get a book deal and I'm a starving artist and I'm broke and I'm homeless and like, end up living with them forever.
Yeah.
Who the fuck knows, And it was a back and forth of like, I'm not sure what to do. And, I can't say it was like one day I just decided I'm going to fully go for it. It was a 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. But one of the big catalysts is when my dad disowned me. And he said, you're dead to me. I want nothing to do from you. Like, you're not my daughter anymore. And that was actually a huge catalyst because it made me realize how much I had been living for his approval unconditionally. And that's not the end of the story of that. A lot of us immigrant kids, it is that. It's like, I was like, wow, they sacrificed so much for me to be here. So I owe them my life, So that was a huge catalyst of like, okay, well, if I'm dead to him, then I might as well just live for myself. And, you know, it took years. I wrote the book. I got rejected by 30 publishers who all repeated the exact same thing my parents said. You're too young. You're not a doctor. No one cares what Ayurveda is. So I'm like, fuck, were they right? I didn't know. But something just within me kept me going and kept me going. And eventually I got a book deal to write The Idiot's Guide to Ayurveda, which was not like the book I wanted to write, but it was what God presented me with. So I gave my all and I said yes. And I wrote that book. Almost a year later, when it was about to be published, I saw Deepak Chopra at a conference, walked up to him, sent him the PDF of my book. He ended up loving it and offering to write the foreword of it.
Amazing.
And since then, he's written the foreword of all 3 of my books, and I've gone on to write finally my modern approach to Ayurveda. But the question I kept getting was like, how are you able to have such clarity? How are you able to continue, you know, when no one around you not only didn't believe in me, but were like actively trying to stop me? Like, how are you able to keep doing it? And that's what really led to me sitting with this concept of Dharma, which we'll be diving more into today. And I realized that my health issues were actually physical symptoms of me being out of alignment with my purpose. They were telling me, they were nudging me that something was off, and all of these obstacles were part of my path to give me the strength, the ability to speak my truth, the ability to go against the person that I want to respect more than anything and completely not get it. Will I still care in these situations? And that was really the curriculum that my soul needed to actually embody my Dharma. Not, I want to be an author, but I'm still scared, but like, are you willing to be the living vibration of the thing that you want to share with the world? And my story doesn't end there. I had a way darker night of the soul that you know about in December of 2022 with my divorce, which was like a whole other initiation of like, wow, even going into that marriage, I was 24 years old, you know, when we started dating, and it was still like that, like, do the right thing, get married, marriage is safety. And it was like, even that needed to, you know, come to a head for me to realize, if I want liberation in this lifetime, I can't hold on to these old structures. So I believe living your Dharma truthfully is about going through these obstacles and transmuting that bronze into gold, and then sharing that with other people.
I love that. Wow, so much to touch on there, and like it's so powerful. And what I love about you is that you have this fire about you. Like it just like in the brief and being random internet friends for a while, and then like finally first meeting you, I can feel that. It's like, oh shit, she got fire, and I love that. I love seeing that, because it's like we get shit done. But then the other side of it is it's okay to be magical.
Yes.
Because there's so much of us that's like city life, and then like immigrant parents, and like what they want you to do, and then like societal and family like judgment. And I got a lot of that too. And I wasn't fulfilling my Dharma, and I didn't know what to do. So I was a drug dealer, and it was so like, I just wanted to be rich. I just wanted to have money. And you know, the conditioning and societal pressure from my little neighborhood was be a baller. But then for my folks, it was like, my dad was a blue collar dude. Go get a blue collar job. He wanted me to be an electrician or something. And so I was like, I don't want to do any of these things, right? And so I was not fulfilling my Dharma, and I was going deep into organized crime because it was just a means to an end. But then I was doing so much drugs, numbing, because I wasn't fulfilling my Dharma. And the minute I said no to that, and I was more addicted to the money than anything, it was, I want to go and help people and serve. I'm meant to serve. Everything melted away, and I started becoming sharper.
Yeah.
And I feel like I leveled up so quickly in that sense, because I cut the bullshit, and I was like, I'm here to serve. And as soon as I let go of I want to be a baller and I'm here to serve, everything like magically opened up. And I've seen that with you, and you just was like, I'm here for yourself. I'm here for myself. I'm here to not please. I'm here to serve and be an author. And you step into that, and then I see the fire in you. And that's what I love about it, is when people get sharp onto, I'm doing this now, and you plant your flag. And that's been this whole week of podcasts. We've had a lot of that. We're planting the flag. We're being this person. And I love that you did that so strongly. And you can see it. I can see it in your eyes. I see how you walk. It's like, I'm this person. And I fucking love that shit. And so how did that go from then on? You got your book out, and you started really studying into Ayurveda, and then Dharma comes in. And I'd love for you to explain Dharma for everyone listening, and our cameramen, because they were like, what's Dharma, man?
Yeah. So the word Dharma, it's actually pronounced like T-H-A-R-M-A, but I'll just say Dharma because we're speaking in English, but the correct Sanskrit pronunciation, because sometimes that's really important to also recognize. So it has over 16 different definitions, just like the word karma. You know, karma has, I don't know if you know, there's many definitions to the word karma as well. But the ancient definition prior to Hinduism, so I'm talking about Vedic definition, is really translated to your unique space in the world. So the way that I see it is we are all part of this jigsaw puzzle of life, and it's the specific piece of the puzzle that you are, the role that you fulfill in the tapestry of eternity. So it can manifest in many ways in your purpose. And when I say purpose, I think our Western understanding of purpose is very career oriented. Now, that makes sense because our career is how we spend our time. So if it's not in alignment with your dharma, with your purpose, of course it's going to feel off, but it's much greater than purpose. So this isn't about finding your perfect job. Your dharma is your unique expression of being. It's your vibration. It's your soul's frequency. It's the energy you emanate out into the world. So it's not what you do, but it's how you do it. And it echoes through every single little thing that you do, every interaction you have, every project you create, every thought that you think, every art that you make is all expressing this dharma through you. And it can shift. It has an essence and frequency that's always you, but its expression shifts because you go through different life experiences, and that's going to change the temperature of it, right? You could have a deep red or a bright red and many different variations throughout your life, but we tend to have like a frequency that's always ours. So if I were to give a definition to the word dharma, I would say your soul's purpose, your unique place in the world, your energetic frequency.
I'm kind of tripping balls right now because when you said that, my first ayahuasca journey, the lesson that came through and the overarching biggest thing was it's not what you do, it's how you do it. And I was sitting there like bucket in hand, like, and it was just, it's not what you do, it's how you do it. And that was what was coming through. So when you said that, it like brought me back into that space, and I was like, oh yeah. And it was so powerful. That was the message. And I was like, of course it is. Like, okay, my guiding principles in life is give, connect, inspire. That's what I'm meant to be doing. I'm meant to be living in compassion. I'm meant to be living in connection and to teach, to inspire people. That's just me. But I can fit that into all these different things I do. Like, how would you fit that into tattoo shops? Like, I own 3 tattoo shops. How does that fit in? Well, we do karma yoga. We want to give. That's important for us. Okay, so you can fit it in. So everyone that's doing a job back at home, it can fulfill your dharma if you make it fit with your guiding principles and your unique frequency of like how you show up in the world.
Yes.
How do you find that?
So often we start in this place of the mind of like, I'm not living my purpose and I want to live my purpose. So I've actually broken it down into 5 stages of dharma discovery. And you can read about it in my book, Discover Your Dharma. So stage 1 is just self-awareness. So to have that awareness of there's something more out there, like it can't just be this day in, day out, same thing. Like it's just to have that spark, which again, not everyone, most people on earth have never even gone to stage 1 yet. Maybe they will. Sometimes I question, is it related to past lives? Is it, sometimes I question why do some people awaken and some don't. But I think if you're listening to this podcast, you've made it to stage 1. Congrats.
Well done, everyone.
Yes. So it's just having that self-awareness that there has to be a greater purpose to this existence, which brings us naturally to stage 2, which is self-development. How do I become my best self? So for some people, that's very much through fitness, others through nutrition, others through meditation. So this self-development tends to be very focused on the body and mind. So it's like optimization, biohacking, Tony Robbins, personal development work, the self-help space is really there. And this is important, and you can't bypass it because we need to look at our thoughts, our beliefs, our patterns. Sometimes people like try to spiritual bypass that one. They'll have these like Kundalini awakenings and like never go to therapy. It's like sometimes you need that
or like
too.
100 ayahuasca cups and you're like,
it's like, I think you need to integrate for 5 seconds. So the self-development is important, but it's not the end. And that's where if you go study psychology, they make it seem like that's just the end, right? It's like, this is you, here are all your conditions and all of your labels, like, good luck living with that, And, in me and now diving deeper into the next iteration of my healing journey, like I do those different things, but it's important to go beyond because then you're like, oh my God, I'm gonna be healing trauma like forever. And then that feels like this other like heavy thing to carry. So that naturally brings us into stage 3, which is the spiritual awakening and realizing that I am not a mind or a body to improve, but rather I am a soul to know. And that really shifts everything because you're not trying to fix, you're not trying to hack, you're not trying to make anything better because it was never actually broken. And that all of those I've been even sitting with the word trauma, like what is trauma? And it's like, it's life experiences that actually can be used for purification, because when you go through something really tough in life, if you let it move through you and release it, it actually purifies your consciousness because it makes you question everything. And you start to question all of the ways that I'm showing up in my relationships, in my family, in my work, in my this and my that. So it's no longer, I have this trauma brain now and I'm broken and it's ruined and it's your fault. But rather it's like, wow, this next level initiation needed to come through like a river passing through to cause me to get to the next level of all of these agreements I was operating from that were not actually serving my highest truth, which also will eventually change to another higher level, another higher level, another higher level, such as life. So spiritual awakening is realizing this. It's often we go deeper into the soul, past lives, astrology, human design, aspects of Ayurveda, yoga, things like that. It can have a shadow side as well. Like we spoke about, it can be like, we need to wake up the sheeple. Like, we are awake, they are asleep. Yeah. We need to wake them up because they don't know what the elites are doing in Hollywood. And it's that
the spiritual arrogance side
right.
of it too. Yeah.
And that creates more us versus them, which is more duality, which is not what universal consciousness is ever actually about, And this responsibility, right? Of like, oh, I need to fix and save those people, which is like ultimately everyone is on their own life path and we don't know. We don't know. So that brings us into stage 4, which is realizing I'm never going to figure out every system and everything and all the questions of the universe, but what can I really dive into? So I call this Dharma development. So it's let me take the tools that really serve me and go deeper into them, right? So stage 3 can be like spiritual Disneyland of like, there's this, that. Stage 4 is when you said, I'm going to do 30 sessions of this hypnotherapy training. I'm going to study Ayurveda for 2 years in India. I'm going to, get certified as a Dharma coach. I'm going to, and you really dive into something. And this is so important. A lot of spiritual people miss this because it's more fun to be in this Vata air creative stage where you're dabbling. Yeah. It takes responsibility. It takes work. It takes, sometimes it's like a relationship. You got to kind of work on it and there's a consistency there. But that Dharma development is where you start to learn, what are my own thoughts about this thing? So maybe I start researching manifestation. I'm researching Abraham Hicks. I'm researching Joe Dispenza, this, that. What do I think? What's working for me? How am I seeing this? You only get that when you sit with something long enough that it's not what you read and repeat, but it's rather you read, but you also need to separate yourself to receive. So from this place of Dharma development, it leads us to stage 5, which is Dharma embodiment. And that is really when your outer world and your inner world are the same, where you are being you full time. There is no separation of here I am at my work and here I am with this friend and here I am there. Of course, you have different sides of yourself, but most people, they live a completely alternative life in their career versus who they are and versus their family. It's masks.
Yeah, and on Instagram.
And on Instagram and on everything else. It's like, how can I get you to like me? But who am I? Do I like me? So Dharma embodiment is when you are you full time, and what happens is everything in your life needs to shift. So, and like, for example, right now, and we go through these cycles again and again and again. It's not a one-time thing. So I'm like going through another death and rebirth cycle. So I'm, for example, have been looking at like just my dynamic with my mom, and like how we talk, how we interact. And I'm like, is this the highest level of connection here? I'm like, no, I tell her something, she judges it, sends me a million articles of why it's dangerous. And then I'm like, don't talk to me. And then the next day we just are like, hey, how are you? This isn't the level of connection I want. I'm sure it's not what she wants, but we're just stuck in this dance right now. So I'm just like, so today I was just like, okay, if you're going to send me 50 articles on the CDC and this and that, like this is not serving.
Persian moms.
So, and then it's like, but then of course there's a confrontation and it's not easy all the time too, but then it comes with that like beautification of it, of like perfecting that recipe. And now it's in a harmonious place. And then you can go back and look at other things in your life and come back to it again. And that's really how it is with your Dharma. You're like continually spiraling into deeper layers of embodiment. And the beauty is when you're living your Dharma, it actually does feel effortless and it does feel in a state of flow. We say like an analogy that I like to share is that we are all born on a highway leading us to our Dharma. And all we got to do is be on cruise control down this highway. We got to just follow the flow, follow the synchronicities, follow the path. Like if you just listen, you will always be guided to hearing the right thing at the right time that meets the right person, that tells you the right message, that takes the right opportunity. Always. It's just that there are all these exits off of the highway, right?
Detours.
You'll make more money doing this. Your parents will love you if you do that. Well, everyone from where you're from does this. Well, it's too late for you to do that. You're fucking old. It's like all these different exits that we take. And then we're no longer on cruise control. We're going off the exit. So the universe is like, bitch, I need to get you back on track. Tap, tap, tap. Anxious, anxious, anxious. We don't listen because everyone else around us is anxious. We think it's normal. So we keep going off track. And then the universe is like, okay, how do I make it louder so they pay attention? Punch, punch, punch. Collisions, like weird things happening.
Get hit by a truck.
The other day I was like, long story short, I had this stealth Instagram, that I was like using to basically, anyways. And then Spirit blocked the Instagram and then blocked me from creating new Instagrams. And I was like, damn universe, I see you. No more stealth Instagram. Which, by the way, every girl listening has a stealth Instagram.
This is a universal thing.
It's a thing. I'm just naming it because I'm in my truth.
This is a real thing. I know it for fact. I know this is a real girl thing. There's no judgment here. I'm just glad.
But God was like, you can't, if you're in integrity, you can't do these stealth Instagram page. So block me from creating new ones. I was like, bitch, I hear you. Okay.
Yep.
So it could do something like that. Or like a friend of mine, he was like going out clubbing and stuff, and he like stepped on his hair straightener, got like massive like 3rd-degree burns, and like couldn't walk for 6 months. So God was like, you are staying home, So it's so sometimes we take these, and if we're listening, we're like, I hear you. This wasn't out to get me. This was to serve me. But again, sometimes we're like, oh shit, I need to keep going out. I need to make another Instagram, and we go against it. And then it's a collision. Yeah. Then it's an accident. Then it's a divorce. Then it's something big that you have no choice but to pay attention. And sometimes you need those things. You need those things because for me, I would have never left my marriage had it not gotten to the situation that it was in. So it's like sometimes it needs to be that bad for you to change. However, can we listen when it's the whispers, when it's the nudges, when it's the taps, and make living in a state of flow in all areas of our lives the norm? And when there's disharmony, to be honest enough to look at that without the fear. Because the reason why we don't look at it is we're afraid of the action that might be needed to be taken. Exactly. If you were looking at, I don't know, you will have a different understanding, but just from the little glimpse that you shared, if you were looking at your relationship with money and really realizing, wow, this isn't serving me, well, what's the repercussion? To not make the money? I'm not doing that.
That's exactly what it was. I didn't want to be broke. That's exactly it. I didn't want to be broke.
So it needs to get as bad as it did. For me, fear of abandonment is like, oh, well, if I'm not totally honest with this and we're not in a marriage anymore, no fucking way. I can't look at that, So sometimes that's the scary thing that you don't want to do. It's oftentimes your biggest fear. But I believe that life often sends us our biggest fears to realize they're actually not. It's like that thing that you thought was your living nightmare, you will survive it and it will become the best thing that's ever happened to you.
It's crazy how so often it is the best thing, and it's always the thing I'm like, I don't want to do it. And then I have to you get forced to do it. And then you do it and you're like, that was great. And it's like,
you're like, it's the thing I end up talking about on podcasts.
Yes, exactly. Always, It's so funny how that worked. And there is seasons and cycles of it. Exactly. Yeah. When I started my life over and I went down super uber hippie spiritual path. Like I grew a beard. I was wearing mala beads. I went full hippie.
Okay.
I was like 600 hours yoga teacher trainings. I went deep. India, ashrams. I went 10 meditation retreats. I went deep in it. And I was like, maybe I should change my name to Lotus Wolf. Actually, I went that far.
Lotus Wolf, specifically?
That was going to be the name,
wow.
Yeah, actually. And thank God it did.
Awesome. Hello, welcome to the Lotus Wolf podcast.
Hello, I'm Lotus Wolf.
It's a good duality there. It's like the lotus and the wolf. I see it.
Yeah, but it's horrible. It's so cringy, right? Yeah. And then I realized I was inauthentic. I didn't like it. And I went through it. I went full into that, which I needed the rebirth to start my spiritual life. But then I went too far into it, and I realized it was the same bullshit. Like I was in the life of drug dealer land, fancy cars, bottle service girls, Louis Vuitton everything, to then mala beads and saging everything, and they were two far extremes. And I realized it was the same masks, it was the same shit, and I had to then come back to actually in my Dharma was to be both.
Well, because we need those it's like you're not going to learn how to ride a bike if you don't go all the way to the left and all the way to the right, and then you find your balance. And then life will continue to, and then you're continuing to find your way.
Yeah, exactly. So then when I was like, oh, okay, I can do all these things in alignment with who I am and continue a life of service in my own way and still like nice shit. It's okay to like nice shit. Okay, this felt way better for me. And then now seeing what attracts into my life in manifestation and actually listening, that's the practice. Because I wasn't listening for a while. Corona hit. I was depressed during Corona. My businesses got tanked, like smashed. And I had to pay leases on a bunch of brick and mortar businesses while making no money for 2 years. Great. And then I started then shifting who I was and, more around thrills, get a nice Ducati, ripping around the island and just like, it just wasn't in alignment to me, and I wasn't listening. And I could feel something needed to happen, and I get hit by a truck. I break both my legs, my pelvis, my elbow, my Achilles, my bladder. And it was like, oh, okay, stop rushing around, stop seeking thrills, stop like living out of alignment, go back to in your body and love yourself. Heal yourself deeper because you love yourself. And I was falling out of love with me after a while, and I needed to go right back into heal yourself because you love you. And I was like, oh, fuck. It's like so hard to receive. You're like, wait, do you really love yourself as much as you think you do? And your Dharma is to love yourself and love everyone. Yep. And I was like, so that was a huge journey. But now I learned how to walk again. And I'm like, I love walking and I love me and I love that I learned how to walk again. And it's like, okay, then you go back into the cycle.
You have a new walk.
You
walk through the world in a new way.
A little bit of a limp, but yes.
But it's like to slow you down.
Yeah. Well, I'm like super Aries. I'm rushing everywhere. I'm just go, do. And I'm like, okay. Now slowing down and enjoying that I get to walk, and that's been a big practice for me.
Yes.
Yeah. So where did it take you after that? Like learning how to discover your Dharma and now helping people. What gifts has that brought in your life now?
Well, one of the big questions I had was like, how do I help other people find their Dharma? So after I wrote the book Discover Your Dharma, and I came up with all these different frameworks. So the 5 stages that we just went through, the Dharma blueprint, which actually like helps pretty much anyone discover their soul's purpose and how to take action on it. So it takes 5 different categories, which are your Dharma archetypes, which we could talk about if you want, your obstacles that you've overcome, the mediums that come through you, your superpowers, and your excitement. So it's a process that you go through to actually give you something tangible, because sometimes like your Dharma, your purpose, it's so big, right? It's like, so what do I do right now? What do I focus my energy on? So it's a process that you can go through that allows you to be like, okay, these are the things I really love to do that are incongruent with who I am, that are related to my unique obstacles. And I have had like, I did this video with this girl, Sky Cohen's, that she found a random stranger from the street. Like she had a sign that said, I will help you find your purpose today. And she got a random stranger from the streets of Boston. I had 3 hours with this person who had no idea who I was, like, they were not on a spiritual path per se. And I used this tool, and not only did she find her purpose, but we realized that she was meant to create these like beautiful photography exhibitions that show the effects of depression on mothers. Like, so she would take a picture of the mother prior and after to getting told something beautiful about her and like showing their smile after. And it became this beautiful exhibition that happened as a result to just this one session, So it's like, it's stuff like that that's like the gift that keeps giving, because when you're able to step into your Dharma, you help other people step into theirs, which helps other people step into theirs. So I created the Dharma Coaching Institute, which is the first school that actually trains certified soul purpose Dharma coaches.
This is awesome.
Yeah.
I love this. And yes, I want to hear the practical steps. This is super juicy.
Yes.
Let's do it.
So we can start with the Dharma archetypes. Okay. So the Dharma archetypes are 9 archetypes that I realized were universal around living your purpose. So these 9 archetypes, and we can go through all of them, or I'll just share what some of my top ones are. Okay. And they're probably related to yours. So the visionary. Yeah. So the visionary is here to bridge the new paradigm, big picture thinking, often through the gift of communication. So as visionaries, we see things earlier than most people do, and we're speaking about them, but oftentimes visionaries are disliked in their lifetime. A huge visionary is Martin Luther King. I have a dream, and he was killed for just saying that, for seeing the vision. So every archetype has a light and shadow side. And before I get into it, there's a quiz people can take, dharmaarchetypequiz.com. In like 90 seconds, you can find out your top 2 archetypes.
We'll put it in the show notes. That sounds awesome.
Yeah. So the visionary is here to bring us to a higher vision. The teacher, that's my second one. I feel like you probably have that one too. Here to impart knowledge. So you go through life learning lessons, sharing them with other people. Now, you might be a teacher, though, of like history or math or gardening. It doesn't necessarily have to be around yourself or spirituality. But like for me, like as a kid to learn things, I would like teach other people them. It was just how I go through. It's like as I'm going through a shitty moment, I'm already thinking about how I'm like teaching it to other people, you know?
All the time.
And it's like, and sometimes I'm like, why am I just not present in this moment for myself? But it's like, that's also how we were wired. Like our souls, I believe our souls chose these archetypes prior to incarnation. Because they support us in living this energy. So we've got the teacher, the artist. The artist is here to bring beauty to the world, you know, and it could be through tattoos, it could be through music, painting, any form of expression. So for me, this has been majorly one that's coming up more and more as my path with DJ and music production and things. And I'm just like, ultimately, like, what's the point of a world where it's like just, because I used to be very activist, which is one of them. And I went to school for international relations, but I'm like, what's the point of a world with no beauty? So that's really like the artist archetype. It's like the poet. It's like when the Titanic is sinking, like they play the violin. It's like, let's add an element of beauty because life can be so mundane. So then we got the nurturer. The nurturer is really here to care and connect. So they're very like one-on-one people. They are caretakers. They often make amazing coaches. They are the friend that has like a really good listening ear and you can come to them for everything. They tend to talk a little slower. They have like a kapha, earth energy. And these are all related to the doshas. And when you take the quiz, it will tell you the doshas related to. So like Oprah has a really strong nurture energy, even though she's a visionary, big personality too, but it's like her one-on-one is what makes her her, that like people open up around her. Nurses, you know, school teachers, etc. So then we got the activist. So the activist is here to create a more just world. So looking at social issues, world issues. I definitely have a very strong activist within me, but if you look at someone like a Marianne Williamson, like that is a true activist right there, that she's given her life to the cause. And this is really important to think of something greater than you, because you know, if we're always in our own heads and our own stories, we become like really self-indulged and obsessed, and it makes us sick. That sometimes the best thing you can do is just to go out there and be of service and realize like how minute your problems actually are, truthfully.
Totally. Yeah.
So and it's like, again, the archetypes that we have the most resistance to are also where our greatest work is. So if you're like, I'm not an activist, like please don't make me give a quote on anything. It's like, that's where your work is, you know, can you stand for something and to be disliked in that standing for it? You know, I think 2020 showed us our relationship with our inner activist. Can you be in the fire or not? Because the truth is, even if you're not talking about it, it's happening, you know, and it's really entitled to say, well, it's not my problem. So I don't need to say anything. And it doesn't mean you got to say something about every cause either. That's the thing with social media. It's like, so what do you think about what's happening in Sri Lanka? I'm like, I haven't researched. I don't know.
But I'm angry.
Right. I'm upset. Justice. I don't know for what. But like, have a cause, you know, like for me, my family's from Iran. So I'm always speaking about what's happening there, because it's like, if my parents hadn't left, I would be there right now, you know? So it's like, it could be a cause that's deeply connected to you. So then the warrior. So the warrior is here to protect and lead. So it has a similar fire energy, but it's not around a cause per se. It could be around like a team. It could just be around a goal. So like a lot of people in fitness are warriors. It's like, here's the goal. We're going to track it and we're going to get there.
Get on your spin bike. Those are intense.
But they're very communal souls. Like they do best when they're like on a team for like a shared mission. A lot of people like the military. You know, it has a strong masculine energy to it. But you could also be like a Tony Robbins, who's like a warrior teacher visionary. You know, he brings that warrior energy though in the way that he teaches. So, you know, if you are the warrior, sometimes it can be a lot for people, but you can also be the warrior that stands for what's important.
Heart warrior.
Yes. So then there's the entertainer. So the entertainer is here to make people feel. So you might be here to make people laugh, cry, think, feel. If you think about like an actor, it's not just for one thing. It's just here to bring people deeper into their emotions. And people who are entertainers tend to have really fluid identities. If you think about Jim Carrey, for example, it's like Yeah, it's like his consciousness is like just embodying these different energies, and it's like a dance of who is he at this moment of time. The shadow side of that is not knowing who you are. Robin Williams, you know, many actors do end up suffering depression and, you know, just debilitating diseases because they're like, they don't know who they are outside of the roles that they play.
Heath Ledger.
Right. So every single archetype has its shadow side, but the gift is you are here to make people feel, and you probably are that person at a party, like people circle around and you're telling a riveting story and you come alive when you're on stage, on camera, like that's just a part of you. And the difference between an entertainer and an artist is an artist tends to have a medium that they're channeling their art through. So it's like the song, the painting, the tattoo, whereas the entertainer is the medium. So there's a little bit of a difference there. And then we've got the researcher. So the researcher is here to collect data and information and make really like solid decisions, or just even share the information without making decisions. So they're here to understand things on a deep level, find patterns. You know, if you think about many scientists, like, and even people like Joe Dispenza and Deepak Chopra, they have very strong researcher energy to them, that they're not just giving a claim, they're showing you with the science and the research why the universe is in a quantum field, and here's all the reasons why.
I love Deepak's books about that.
Right.
He's one of my heroes, to be honest.
Yes. Yeah. And, you know, and he was a medical doctor, so he has a lot of that researcher energy to him. So we got to have the researchers too, because if we're all just like, I feel this, well, I feel that, it's like, well, then what's truth? But then the shadow side of the researcher is like they're holding on to their knowledge for so long and they never feel like they're ready because they know there's always more to learn, that it's like, you know, someone might have the cure to cancer, you know, I'm sure there's many people out there who do, but it's not ready. They need more research. So the shadow side of that is like, sometimes you actually need more of that warrior. You need more of that fire to bring it out.
Yeah.
So I think I've gone through all 9. If not, people can head over to the dharmaarchetypequiz.com. So it's a really good place to start, because oftentimes we're like, I don't really know what I'm good at, you know, and if you can just see yourself in a greater archetype that's beyond you, you're like, okay, well, if I'm a visionary and I have similar gifts, then I must also be a strong communicator. I must also want to share my message in a greater way. And it helps you see parallels in yourself and the bigness of yourself before you've maybe stepped into it.
Wow, super powerful. Pretty much finding out who you are and what you need to do in life. No big deal.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then that takes us to the Dharma blueprint, which is then the tool to actually find the thing that you're going to do with this. But start with the Dharma archetype.
Okay, break it. What do we do next?
Okay, you want to go straight in? Well, first of all, what do you think your Dharma archetypes are?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Entertainer, warrior, big time in those sense. I like to be in teams. I know in my soul I'm meant to connect, give, inspire, but the warrior is big in me, but there's like a bhakti warrior, heart warrior. I know in many past lives I've been this soulful yogi warrior and bringing people together as a leader. And that's just been in my archetype many, many times, but I'm like deeply loving.
Yeah.
But I got the sword on hand. It's just been a part of it. It's just been part of what I've been meant to do. Teaching, you know, not so analytical. So I'm not the scientist.
Researcher, yeah.
I'm not the accountant. Don't let me do the numbers.
Yeah.
But I'll bring people in.
So entertainer, warrior, and visionary, you think?
Yeah, definitely visionary. Yeah, absolutely. I could see those, and I wonder what I'm missing. There's a lot to remember.
Maybe some teacher, or do you like to teach?
Definitely teacher. 100%. Yeah. Give, connect, inspire. Inspire part was meant to teach.
What do you think you're the least?
Definitely researcher. Yeah, I'd say that part of like compiling all the notes and information. That part, like I've had to work hard to be organized in this lifetime. That's a big part of me. But I love now organization and structure. It helps me be better in my creative flow. I'm definitely a creative and an artist in the sense of my art is people and connection. That's what I'm really creative at. I'm not a tattoo artist, but I own the tattoo shops.
Right.
I'm not a yoga teacher, but we have a studio in one.
The last archetype we forgot is the entrepreneur.
Ah, really?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
So the entrepreneur is here to create solutions for world's problems through business.
Yeah, okay, there you go. That was early entrepreneurship, wasn't very legal, but I learned a lot about that.
Right.
Yeah.
Because you're like, oh, well, here's the problem. People need their fix.
Yeah.
You know, that's a problem.
Yeah.
You know, it could be the problem of like people need chocolate, or it could be the problem of anything. I mean, look at Shark Tank. It's like people that's what entrepreneurship is. It's creating solutions, but the light of it is like the siddhi of it is like, how can we create solutions to positive problems that, bring, and that's what you're exactly doing. So the entrepreneur, likely since they were kids, is like setting up the lemonade stand, like selling things around the house. And it's just like, you love the process of creating businesses.
It was my favorite thing to find weird and creative solutions for stuff. Like I really enjoyed it.
So that's probably your number one archetype is entrepreneur.
I like love that, it made me so happy to connect the dots. And then to know that I can like launch something, pull it off. Like during the accident, I'm in handicap, we launched 2 businesses. And I like love that I'm able to do that, and a podcast. And I'm like, hey, I can pull this off, and I'd love to be able to generate the idea and bring it out. But now it all has to be with the guise of service, of seva. I have to be able to give, and that makes it worth it. The money doesn't matter. What matters is that people are fucking with it in a way that's making their life better. Like that's juicy for me. That makes it worth it, because I made money without it impacting the world before. And I was so depressed. I was so depressed I had to numb, because I couldn't stand a waking moment without being numbed, because I wasn't living the Dharma. And I think a lot of us get stuck in that rut where so much isn't working, and it just isn't. And then life is just like, what's the point? Like, why am I even doing this? But if we live in our Dharma, we could have horrible days. We just still know we're on the path. We know it's part of the journey. It's part of our big cosmic plan. We're still on the way. It's going to rain. Of course it's going to rain. Of course we're going to have heartbreak. Of course it's going to happen. But we're still on the journey there. It's better than having those horrible days when you're not on the path.
Exactly.
It's just,
yeah. And the beauty of that is once you've realized it and you've gone through these dark nights of the soul and gone to the other side, then when you're in it, it's like you're awake within the dream.
Yeah.
And like, oh, this is, when I was in my early 20s, I would tell myself, this is just the shitty part of your memoir. Everyone needs one. This is just yours right now.
I love this.
And even though I had no evidence of this, never met an author, did not know if I would ever write a memoir, but it helped me see it from this higher level perspective. So then when you're going through these, it's like, even though right now this moment sucks, I know it's just the next level of initiation and fine tuning for me to get to the next stage that only this process would bring me through.
100%. Even when I was like paralyzed in the hospital, couldn't move, couldn't go to the bathroom by myself, very humbling. I knew this was just going to be a damn good story to tell later. Like, this is going to be a good story later on. Don't worry about it. Just make it through this. Entertain yourself, have fun while you're doing this. Smile and laugh through this horrible process. But also tell it later and with a smile on your face then too. And that really got me through it. Was like, okay, my Dharma is to actually go through crazy shit and then be able to learn the lessons.
You're like, God, this isn't the plan, right? For real?
Really? Like, when the accident happened and I was in the ambulance and I'm going to the hospital and I'm awake the entire time, so it was savage pain. And I was just like, okay, like literally I accepted it right then and there. And I was just like, this is the plan. Hey, this is my karma. I actually said it like in the ambulance, this is my karma. Okay, I guess this is what's meant to happen. I'll deal with it. I'll take it, And it was like, I didn't know if I was going to be paralyzed or not. And I was accepting that during, I was like, I might have broken my back. I'm like, okay, like, I'll roll with it and we'll see what happens, which was wild to like even think about. That was like a crazy thought process, praying to God and then accepting what this was. But I think a lot of what we do, and I was talking to Lucas this morning about it in his kitchen, we were just having a cacao, and it's like, we train for this. Like we go into the spiritual path right away. That's good karma that we got into the spiritual path. That if you're listening to this, you have that side of you that wants to work on yourself, that wants to connect to something deeper. That right there is like a huge start. Like you said, you've woken up enough. That first stage, you got this. Then continuing the work, it trains you then to manipulate or look at everything that's happening to you that's a negative to be a benefit. And I really love that about personal development, because you train for this. When I get hit by a truck, I train for that by going to yoga teacher trainings or by going to all these different retreats in personal development and landmark and all this other stuff. It's like, I trained for this thing by working on myself, and it's so multifaceted. So learning your Dharma is also going to help you train for all the heartbreak and setbacks and whatnot. Right? So now that somebody's kind of found out their Dharma, or their Dharma archetypes, what's next after that?
Yeah, so there's so many tools that we share, so I don't want to
it's going to be like a 3-hour podcast
so
and your course?
Yes.
Okay, good.
So I would say start there, take the quiz, and just sit with that. The next thing would be the Dharma Blueprint, which, I do lots of free workshops and stuff. So if people just go on dharmacoachinginstitute.com, they can sign up for my next workshop that I do that will guide them through it. But I know sometimes we get in this like state of like, I need to figure it out. And even just knowing your Dharma archetype And then I'll just give one more the next piece of the Dharma blueprint to go into. Okay. I would invite people to write a list of all the obstacles that they have overcome or helped someone else overcome. And just think about those two. How can I bring those two things together? My Dharma archetype and obstacles I've overcome. And start to just draft up a list of ways they could be connected. So let's say you're a nurturer and you overcame, postpartum depression. It's like, okay, how can I bring those two things together? It's like, okay, I could coach moms with postpartum depression. I could, use my gifts of photography. I could write a book. I could volunteer somewhere. I could, and just start coming up with ways that you could use now your gift of who you are with the obstacle. And just that will help you so much because it allows you to realize that these obstacles you overcome tied into who you are is part of how you're meant to be of service.
Very dope. I really like that. I'm curious about like compatibility between Dharma archetypes. Is there like a dating section of it?
I think any of them could work.
Yeah.
I think it's good to have a balance in a relationship, but at the same time, maybe two artists really want to get along or two entertainers. But I think it is important, like, especially with the doshas, for example, which are different energies. If you're the exact same, there tends not to be like the polarity in the learning. I tend to find in relationships, there's one who's more of like the kite and one who's like the rock. So it's like having that dynamic.
Is that like the Vata and Kapha? I've never heard the kite and the rock reference. I really like that actually.
Yeah. It doesn't necessarily have to be Vata and Kapha. Like maybe it's Vata and Pitta or they're a combination. But I tend to find, let's say if two people are very Vata, which is the air energy, which tends to be more of like the artist, the visionary, the entertainer. They might be like, well, I'm doing my thing. Well, I'm doing my thing. And then it's like neither, then they'll just go off and do their own things, neither will like commit. But then if it's like two like researchers, it might be like way too like routine and analytical and not enough passion and stuff. Two entrepreneurs could work well, but then it's like, what are the other archetypes it's related to? I really believe in a relationship, who we're attracted to is like who we want to be in some type of way. And it's like who we want to learn from. Yeah, I've been really diving into this. So it's like we're attracted to them because they're a muse of an energy that we actually seek to embody in our lives.
I like this.
So it's like looking at, okay, maybe I tend to find my type is I love teachers or whatever else. It's like maybe you actually want to be a teacher and you haven't embodied it, so you're outsourcing it thinking it's this other person, but really it's you who wants to be the teacher.
That's super interesting actually. I like that because I'd always be more attracted to women who are nurturing, and the thing that came up so much in my whole life was I need to nurture myself. Like you need to nurture yourself.
Right.
And through the
but you wanted to outsource it from someone else.
Yeah.
I'm always attracted to musicians, artists. Because I wanted to be a musician and an artist, but I'm like, oh, I'll date DJs, know? But then it's like, then I became a DJ and now I'm becoming a music producer. And it's like, I don't need that from someone else. I do think it's beautiful to create with someone. But if you're waiting for someone else to do it, then it could be gone. It could be taken away from you,
I've been taking more baths.
Yeah.
I've been taking lots of baths. I've been getting all like the bath stuff. I've been I'm like bubbly and I got the lavender and I've been taking like baller baths and I'm like, I'm nurturing myself. And I like actually really like it. And I'm like enjoying that. Then I'll go to boxing. I'm like, okay,
it's funny because even the archetypes that we dislike, like for me, I don't like being a nurturer, because my mom was so like codependent on me that I'm like, ugh, like I'm independent, So it's like, so my work is also the nurturing of myself, which, maybe I need to do those baths.
And it worked though, like really, like I did a lot of spiritual sessions and I was like, what I was calling in, what parts of me, and my whole work the last few years had been to integrate the feminine in me and to like love the feminine in me. And I was doing also, like we were talking in the elevator about like tantra stuff I was doing. And it was like, one of the things we had to do was dance like a sexy girl, like the feminine in us. And I had to do it when it was all men's tantra retreat in the sense of us to embody the divine masculine in us, and a huge part of that was embodying the divine feminine in us.
Love that.
And so we were pairing up, and me and one of my buddies, Joe Axelmore, we were paired up for each other, and we were wondering what we're supposed to do. And it's like, okay, they put on a song like now you're to dance in your divine feminine for the guy, and I had to dance sexy as a woman for my bro. And I'm like, fuck yeah, right. Like I thought they were kidding, like fucking joking, right? Yeah, right. And they're like, no, go ahead. And I'm like,
wow, I love that practice.
Yo, really? Like and we're both looking at each other, and we would like train kickboxing together. So we're both like, And then it was like almost like a challenge of like, well, how sexy can you get, bro?
Right, you had to add that masculine
a little
to
bit.
let yourself get
and I was
comfortable.
like, watch.
Yeah.
And I was like, got really into it. And then I started enjoying it. And I'm like, I feel sexy. And it was so funny. My friend Chantel, she was leading it, Chantel Raven, and my friend Matilda Carroll were watching, and they were like, Aaron's girl is hot. And they told me after, and I was like, fuck yeah. And I felt
So what
good.
was like the girl version of that? What did women have to do?
Embody their warrior, I think.
Their
So,
warrior,
yeah, they're
okay,
masculine
yeah.
in it. So I don't know
So
if
my least archetype when I wrote Discover Your Dharma was the warrior.
Okay.
That was the one
Yeah.
that I was like, I don't like warriors. They're aggressive and
Yeah.
they're mean and they're angry, and I don't like angry people. And like,
Yeah.
I don't want to be that, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
And my dad was very angry growing up. So for
Yeah.
me, when I would see anger, I'm just like, it's like a low vibration.
For sure.
Keep it away from me.
Definitely.
So, but now I would say I feel really comfortable in my warrior.
Yeah,
Like I feel
yeah.
like I fucking rock my warrior,
Yeah,
you know? But
yeah.
but if you don't own that archetype that you're the lowest in, it's like the hole in your pocket.
Definitely.
That you can't actually, like I can't be the visionary that I'm here to be if I'm afraid of being a warrior.
Yes.
Because I won't have boundaries. I won't speak my truth. I won't stand in my power.
I feel the warrior in you, though. That's the thing. It's like,
for
I
sure.
feel the fire.
Now,
Yeah.
But when I wrote Discover Your Dharma a few years ago, I was afraid of that because
Okay.
I was afraid of rejection,
Yeah.
you know, because when it's so different, like a warrior woman, and people are like, oh, she's like warrior is positive, but like an angry woman.
Yeah.
No one wants to be around an angry woman. People don't like when women have boundaries. People don't like when women are assertive and sharp, especially in Middle Eastern culture. So it was like that part of me that wanted to be accepted and loved was like, it's so much easier to just go with the flow and just be a people pleaser. And, you know, if something's bothering you, just do the work within yourself, because then you'll be able to get through it. Then tell someone that this thing is, you know. And it's still a continual process. I mean, this divorce has massively brought me into it.
Yeah, as they do.
But I do believe that we are here. It doesn't mean you need to become it's not like you need to be a nurturer and lead with that moving forward, but it's like to know how to nurture yourself, because then you can be the entrepreneur and the warrior that you're here to be.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think all those archetypes, we need to make friends with the healthy aspects of them. Because like I was an unhealthy warrior in my early 20s. And that wasn't healthy. That was really aggressive, and it just wasn't cool. But now, when I got my black belt in kickboxing, I much more understood what power meant, and to be dangerous in a responsible way. And that's a protector. That's I hold it down, and I protect my people, and I love fiercely. But in the sense that I have a sense of strength and calm about me, that I don't get into fights. Like I don't get into street fights. That just doesn't happen to me. But as a kid, when I didn't know shit, we'd be scrapping all the time, and that's just like the immature aspect of that. And then when you find the actual mature aspect of all of those archetypes, it's well-rounded and healthy, and then it helps you in all the other archetypes.
Yeah.
So then I can create a sense of safety with everyone around me, and then that's one of the compliments I always get is women feel safe around me, and I'm like, well, it's because I have a healthy warrior, but also I nurture now. So I'm like, do you need some water? Like enjoy doing that now.
Right,
I appreciate it. But I think that was some of the biggest work for me, was to embody my feminine, which is weird in my old neighborhood. That's just like, that's weird. You know, it's not common. So I enjoy those parts, but I enjoy then now all these other archetypes. And say if I don't embody the researcher much, but it's actually been very helpful for me to then get more organized. And so do you think that we all need to at least make friends with the healthy aspects of all of those?
Yes.
There's all of them in us?
All of them are in us.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is exciting.
Various amounts, yes.
I really like this.
So yeah, because it's like, for example, let's say, I don't know if you want to write a book one day.
I'm writing one.
Yeah,
I'm 18 chapters in.
Writing a book, exactly.
Yeah,
So it's like, you got to work your inner researcher to write a book, you know?
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean now you got to shift your whole personality and only be that, but it's like, that supports you, because then you can share your gems. And the beauty is then you can find a career path that's in alignment with who you are. Like a lot of people, I would say most people are working jobs that are not in alignment with their main archetypes. And that means they're not doing a really good job at it either. And if you're not doing a good job at it, it's like, who is this really serving? And there's just such a disconnect right now of like the way people make money and who they are. And it really is meant to be this congruous thing, because there's, you know what it's like, there's nothing better than being paid for being you.
Yeah.
And for sharing your gifts. And
the
like,
best.
I would do this for free and I'm being paid for it. Like, what? And it's like, that's how living your Dharma gets to be.
Yeah.
But there's so many people who are like nurses that should be warriors, and people who are lawyers that should be nurturers. It's like everyone's just mixed up right now, and it's like that's why my wish is for children to learn this earlier in life.
Love it.
So then they can, we're like, what's your major in college? And it's like you haven't thought about it. Now you have to like choose this major in like the rest of your life. And it's like, imagine if from the time you were a kid, like I knew from the time I was a child, I was an artist and I was a visionary, but those things were just like not allowed in my household. So I was like, okay, well, I'm good at communication, so I guess I'll be a lawyer because that's like the job that fits the most with communication, but it's so like analytical and it's not the same thing. Yeah. So imagine if from the time we were children, we are able to foster those gifts and, live lives in alignment with that, how far we would get.
Yeah, exactly. Instead of living it out through our parents' expectations of like, be a lawyer, which was obviously like the one that's going to please the ethnic parents, right? Be a lawyer. I was supposed to be a doctor. Said I was a recreational pharmacist for a while. And then now I'm not. Now I'm like, okay, I'm actually the teacher and the inspiration, and I like to build community and build businesses that then hire a bunch of people that have a altruistic goal to them, and it's like, okay, that's juicy for me. And then my family came around after they've seen, okay, all that I can do after that. I think everybody, your family will come around, hopefully in your case as well, when you're doing it. You're doing it on a stage, you're doing it on even not a stage, but your stage of helping people, making a positive impact in the world.
Yes.
And that's huge. So I really like that. And I think people should take your course, figure out what their Dharma is, and then hire me as their coach to then make it happen. So it's like bang, bang. So that's a good combo. Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you so much for coming today.
Thank you so
I
much
think
for
you
having
dropped
me.
so much amazing wisdom, and I think a lot of people are going to be figuring out what to do with their life and who they really are. So that's very life-changing. So what you're doing is literally changing lives and helping people find their purpose. That is a beautiful Dharma. I really love that. Thank you so much for bringing that, and your energy and your care and your fire. It was a pleasure for me. So really, thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure to be here today, and I'm so excited to see everyone's Dharma unfold.
Yes. And we'll have all your bits and bobs and everything that they can find you in the show notes, so that people can then take your course, join all of the platforms and all the things, and of course, follow and support you if they're not already. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Ink Pray Love podcast. I hope you found it inspiring, entertaining, funny, and also feeling a little bit more present and connected to yourself. Please leave a review and like and subscribe and do all those things. I'd really appreciate that. As well as if you're feeling in a giving mood, this podcast is there for the charities that I love to support. Go to www.aaronbaya.com/charity and get some of those good karma points. This podcast is brought to you by Lighthouse Studios in Bali, as well as Full Reset Coaching. That is my coaching practice. And if you're looking for help in business, inner game impact, and building your legacy to be something you're proud of, your brand, your business, and how you walk the earth and who you impact, and also having the mindset and the heart set to be able to be happy handling it all, I'm here for you. Just DM me. Let's go. Peace out, homies. I'll see you on the next episode.